Yeah, I think fear can be a very powerful thing. Very, we being afraid is something to be afraid of. If that makes sense.
Oh man, hang on a sec. Say that again.
Being afraid is something to be afraid of.
That's deep, man. That is real deep.
This is the Recovery After Stroke podcast with Bill Gassiamis, helping you navigate recovery after stroke.
Bill from recoveryafterstroke.com. This is episode 140, and my guest today is Neale Mahon. Neale is no stranger to health challenges. Born with a cleft lip and palate, dealing with a brainstem tumour as a young child, and an ischemic stroke in his 30s, has given this middle child some lessons in resilience. Now, just before we get started, if you enjoy the Recovery After Stroke podcast and you think that others should hear the amazing stories of these excellent stroke survivors, please tell others about the podcast and share it on your favorite social media app. Also, leave the Recovery After Stroke podcast a 5-star review on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. And if you're watching on YouTube, click the thumbs up button and subscribe to get notified of new episodes. Thanks so much for listening. And now it's on with the show. Neale Mahon, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Bill. It's an honor to be here with you today, and it's an honor to have people listening to what I have to say.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Thanks for reaching out. I really appreciate it when somebody reaches out and asks to be on the podcast. That's exactly what it's about. That's exactly what it's for. It's about stroke survivors sharing their stories. So tell me a little bit about what happened to you.
Well, I've got a interesting medical history, to say the least. But specifically for my stroke, it happened back in May 21st of 2018. Actually, 3 days before my 31st birthday. And so now I'm 34. So I was on my way driving to just a normal kind of doctor checkup. And I had, while I was driving, I put my arm out the window because it was a really nice day in May, and my arm went numb. But I figured, it's done that before because I always usually pinch a nerve when it's at a weird angle. So I just figured I pinched a nerve. Well, it didn't go back to normal until like a half hour later, an hour later. I noticed it was still numb, and I had just gotten into my doctor's appointment. And I got up on the exam table, and my left leg went numb, literally that second. And I was like, that's really weird. And I told whoever the doctor was that was working or was checking me out. I was like, hey, it's weird. My arm and leg feel numb. What could be going on there? And to me, I was like, oh, I just really weird. It's probably I pinched a nerve again. They did all the checkups on me. Blood pressure was great. Heart rate was great. I knew I didn't have high cholesterol or anything like that. So there's really no marker to give anybody an idea what was going on. But I noticed that after I got off the exam table and started to walk out, I was kind of disoriented. And I have been to this doctor. This is my family doctor, so like I know my way around the building. And I was disoriented in the lobby, and I was like, "Well, that's weird." Started to walk outside, and then I realized I was veering towards the left as I was walking. I was walking straight in my head, but I was actually walking to the left, and then I ended up kind of walking off the sidewalk. I didn't hurt myself or anything. I just walked into the grass. And then I said, that's really weird. that should have set me off right away, first of all, but it didn't. I I said, well, what the, if I can jog to my car, well, then I guess I can drive home.
Oh God.
Like the worst sentence ever. If I can jog to my car, I guess I can drive home. So I I jogged to my car and I make it. I don't know how pretty it was or not pretty, but I felt like I was okay. So I said I'm going to get in my car, go home, and I figured I was just really dehydrated. You probably heard that a ton of times. I went home. I chugged a big 32-ounce glass of water, and I was still just feeling tired. So I was like, I'm going to lay down for a nap. Right before I laid down for my nap, I texted my wife who was at work. I said, hey, say a prayer for me. I'm not feeling too hot or, not feeling very well. I laid down for my nap, and about 45 minutes later, I woke up from that nap and I felt world's worst. Excuse me. I was dizzy. I was really disoriented in my own home. That didn't make sense. And so I called my wife. I said, I don't know what's going on. And, she works at the hospital. So everybody was like, oh my God, he's having a stroke or he's having a heart attack. Or, we didn't really know what was going on at that moment. But she knew that I needed to be, at an emergency room. And luckily, my niece, who I credit with saving my life, was living with me she was living in our house at the time. And so I had called her and been like, hey, can you drive me to the hospital? I don't know what's going on.
Wow.
And she drove me to the hospital. The crazy thing is I went back. I had her drive me back to the, not the ER, but I had her drive me back to the family doctor. The wrong place, the place I didn't need to go. Like they couldn't do anything for me. So I had it on the way there. I realized that I was really going downhill kind of quickly. And I called an ambulance and had the ambulance meet us at the family doctor to rush me to the ER, which is right down the street from my house. So instead of driving, go ahead.
I'm listening to you, and it reminds me of me. I just met you, but I'm gonna be completely, totally blunt. I did the same stupid things that you did, thinking that I was doing the right thing.
Yeah, right.
But that's what stroke does. Like it messes with you in so many ways, and it makes you make decisions that you would not normally make. At the same time, when you're feeling these strange symptoms, your head is going, no, it's okay. It's not that. It's nothing serious. It's probably something else. I'll tell you what I did, just so you know that I'm not lying. For a week, I ignored the numbness in my left side for a week. I had numbness in my foot. It spread to the entire left side of my body. I was arguing with my wife, with my doctor, with my chiropractor about why I shouldn't go to the hospital. One other time, because I had 3 bleeds, one other time, the numbness came back as sunburn on my left side. And my way of fixing it was to get out of my car and walk around the car. And if I walked around the car and it went away, then I was good. So I got back in the car, and then it happened again. I drove myself to the hospital. I mean, I everything you say are the same crazy things that I did, and tried to convince myself that something else was happening and it wasn't serious and it wasn't life-threatening. And one other time, I was being driven home, feeling sick, being driven home. We stopped outside of a hospital where I threw up, and we got back in the car so I can drive to the hospital near my house. And I didn't drive, somebody was driving me, but it was an hour away from the hospital I was outside of when I was throwing up.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. That's the same stuff that you did.
Yeah.
And then you got to
Yeah.
the hospital, and then what happened then? Like, you're at the hospital, and then what was the
Well,
situation?
so, I'm in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. They were like, asking me all these questions, and I felt cool and awesome because I could answer them. I was like, ooh, a challenge. Yay. I like challenges. It's like, what's your date of birth? I'm like, ring, ring. I said everything real quick, and they're like, well, we think you're having a stroke, but we don't know if you're having a stroke. We can't really tell what's going on because, number one, when I had my stroke, I was 31 years old.
Mm, wow.
So they don't see a lot of 31-year-old stroke survivors or stroke patients in general. But so they take me to the nearest emergency room, which is actually a stroke certified hospital.
Hmm.
And then they continue to do the stroke protocol here in the U.S. on me, do the MRI, CAT scan, blah, blah, blah. And they come back and they go, we're pretty confident you're not having a stroke. And that, I'll never, ever, ever forget that. And I sat in that hospital for 8 hours in the ER with nothing, no, no intervention, no nothing.
Wow.
For 8 hours until I got sent to the Cleveland Clinic. And in that 8 hours, I went from having strength in my arm and my leg to it slowly going away. I could feel it like slowly getting harder to open and close my hand. My strength was leaving me, and I was like, "Oh, here we go." I still didn't know what was going on. We all have so much faith in doctors and medicine and hospitals that we forget that they're also, they're human. They can make mistakes too.
Yeah.
So I got a transport to the Cleveland Clinic. Thank God I arrived there probably at midnight that night or at 1 a.m. And within 5 minutes, they told me to stick my tongue out, and they said, stick it straight out. And it went all the way to the affected side. And they're like, you're having a stroke.
Wow.
And then, but by that time, I was way over the time frame for any type of unconventional, TPA or anything like that.
Yeah. Too long had passed.
And I mean, thank God I was breathing, honestly.
So, now you've been diagnosed, you're in the hospital, they know you're having a stroke. Did your condition deteriorate? What happened then?
I mean, it got to, by the time I got to the Cleveland Clinic, I couldn't move anything on my left side, not my toes, not anything on my fingers, couldn't move a thing.
Mm.
Probably couldn't move a thing for about 3 or 4 days.
And your stroke was a ischemic stroke caused by a blood clot. Do they know what caused the blood clot?
Yeah, so I was born with a brain tumor called a ganglioglioma, which is a brainstem tumor.
Uh-huh.
And back in the early 90s, I went through about 3 years of chemo and radiation. And it turns out that they believe that the radiation that I did back in the day caused my blood vessels in the back of my neck to atherosclerose.
Uh-huh.
And basically, that's what caused the stroke.
Did they
It
call
wasn't
it
that.
dissection? Was it a dissection, or was a part of the blood vessel actually what caused the clot? Did a piece of your blood vessel come off?
No, I don't think anything came off. So
Okay.
I don't think so.
It sounds like it might be a dissection. It sounds like something has changed in the inside of the blood vessel.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
makes the blood flow slightly differently, and as a result, just creates little blood clots just because of the pressure that's there, and might throw it off somewhere.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Wow, man! So you're not new to all of this kind of stuff. So this brain tumor, do you recall what kind of challenges you were facing back then as a child and what you had to
Yeah,
overcome then?
nothing really. So I'm I'm lucky in that aspect. I guess when they found it, I was kind of dragging my left leg, I believe it was, because my brain tumor, I guess, is slightly left sided, or I'm not 100% sure.
Right.
Uh, but basically, for 30 something years, I led a completely normal life. I didn't really have anything because we found it early enough and they shrunk the tumor. They couldn't go in because it's in my brainstem. They couldn't go in and get it out. They can
Mhm.
only shrink it with chemo and radiation.
Was your wife there when you found out that you had a stroke, or were you alone?
My wife was there. She met me, excuse me. She met me at the first hospital. So, and then my mom met me there, and my family met me at the other hospital.
Had they taken?
So
I know it's a obvious question, right? But
yeah, yeah,
how did they
like
take
pros,
it?
like absolute angels and professionals. I mean, you know, my my mom and my family has been, I'm the middle child. I have all the so-called problems,
Of a middle
but
child.
yeah, yeah, I got screwed. I got screwed with all the problems. But
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
no, that's all right. That's all right. They're all good. Not really, but okay. But and I was also, you can't really tell in this picture, but I was also born with a cleft lip palate.
Mhm.
And so, I've gone through like 25 surgeries throughout my entire life to correct that, and the tumor, and now I had a stroke. It's like, geez, got anything else to throw at me?
Enough already. Enough.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But they were amazing. I really couldn't have done. I wouldn't be where I am without my family for sure.
you know your history of medical situations, conditions, whatever you want to call them. Does that help you when somebody says to you, you've also had a stroke, Neil? Like, does it help you with your mindset, or does it help you with how you're going to move forward and overcome things? What goes through your mind when now you've had a stroke? Like, I know what goes through your mind as well. I know part of it might be, I don't want to be in this situation, or stroke's no good, or what do I have to do to recover? But is there some of your history that helps you now?
Are you speaking of like the mental aspect of that?
Yeah, your kind of
Okay.
your approach to life and your approach to overcoming. Like, how do
Well,
you move forward?
I mean, I completely understand that because now that I've had a stroke, strokes not only affect you physically, affect you emotionally very much.
If you've had a stroke and you're in recovery, you'll know what a scary and confusing time it can be. You're likely to have a lot of questions going through your mind. Like, how long will it take to recover? Will I actually recover? What things should I avoid in case I make matters worse? Doctors will explain things, but obviously you've never had a stroke before. You probably don't know what questions to ask. If this is you, you may be missing out on doing things that could help speed up your recovery. If you're finding yourself in that situation, stop worrying and head to recoveryafterstroke.com, where you can download a guide that will help you. It's called 7 Questions to Ask Your Doctor About Your Stroke. These 7 questions are the ones Bill wished he'd asked when he was recovering from a stroke. They'll not only help you better understand your condition, they'll help you take a more active role in your recovery. Head to the website now, recoveryafterstroke.com, and download the guide. It's free.
Hmm.
And it's something I've had to deal with now that I haven't really ever had to deal with. I'm kind of a full throttle guy. The gas pedal's either down or it's the brakes on.
Mhm.
So I always have approached life as like, tomorrow's tomorrow, and just try to be a good person. And then if you think you're being a good person, try to be a better person. And and try to bless those around you with what you can. But you got to bless yourself too. So you got to take care of your own person too.
So when you're
And
having a terrible day, how do you be nice to other people? Like how, um, like how is it possible to focus on others when you're having a really bad day, or is that the time to go? Hang on a sec.
I always I understand what you're saying. I always feel like it could be worse. I got enough checked boxes to have a lot more problems.
How long did it
Um,
take you to get back on your feet? Your stroke affected your entire left side. So what happened after your hospitalization and your clot was sorted?
so I was in acute therapy for 8 weeks at the hospital. So I didn't leave the hospital for 2 months
Hmm.
or 2.5 months or whatever it actually was. Um, Thank God for the Cleveland Clinic and their therapists over there because they're number two in the planet for a good reason because they're really good at what to do. But and I still go to therapy once a month over at the clinic, and I have my own home pro- program that I work on all the time. So if not every day, every other day.
Yeah. And how long has it been since the stroke?
It'll be 3 years on the 21st of May. So
Yeah. Your sounds like your approach has been kind of created from that early days of the brain tumor, in that you had a brain tumor. You probably am I accurate when I say you thought every day after the brain tumor was sorted that is a blessing, and therefore just keep moving forward, just keep going, just get stuff done, just achieve what you want to achieve, live a happy life, just be nice to people? Is it fair to say that that approach, it was the one that you used previously and now it's worked for you then, and it's going to continue to support your recovery moving forward?
I would agree with that. I definitely would agree with that. I think yeah, I don't know if you've seen my website or anything.
I have a bit.
But Poster Fit. One thing I have on there is my B100. 100% mental, 100% physical, and 100% diet and nutrition. After you have the stroke, all of those things are affected.
Mm,
Your diet, your mental state, your physical state.
yeah.
And so I chose and I choose every day to be 100% in all of those. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it 100%, not 70%, 30%, 20%. And sure, I'm not perfect. Nobody is.
Hmm.
I'm not the best at diet. Wish I was better, but you know, everything comes with practice.
Yeah.
So
And you strive, I believe in striving for the 100%. And if you get 75%, that's better than 60%. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because I was talking to uh, Kent, who was one of the people on
Yeah.
your podcast. I was talking to him yesterday. I said the only thing I can guarantee anyone is if you don't do anything, you have a chance of zero recovery.
Yeah.
It's not just going to come back and sit on the couch and don't do anything.
Yeah. Kent Tran, no, Kent Bragg. Kent Bragg
Right. Yeah.
was on episode 138. And yeah, he's a pretty cool dude.
Yeah,
He,
he's from Ohio too, so he lives like an hour and a half away from me apparently.
wow. Okay. That's great. Isn't
Yeah.
it amazing? A guy from the other side of the planet in Australia, in down under, connected to
Yeah.
people from Ohio. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, your wife, how has she dealt with all of this? How have you noticed her going through this process with you? Has it been difficult for her? Have you guys discussed serious issues like mortality and all that kind of stuff? Because
Oh yeah.
they're the kind of conversations I had,
Yeah, it's really funny that you say that because 3 weeks before I had my stroke, we started our will.
Mm.
And guess where we finished it?
The
In
day
the
before?
hospital.
Oh
In
gosh.
After my stroke, but I could barely move my left side. I called up the attorney. I said, "Hey, I'm in the hospital. Can you come meet me?" And he could. Uh, I was just like, "Man, is that that's what it's for?"
You guys are
Exactly what
hardcore,
it's
man.
for.
Doing that in hospital, that is hardcore. Let me tell you. I completed it about I reckon maybe 2 years later or a year later, something like that. But I did definitely complete it very rapidly. I was 37 years old at the time.
Okay.
So I did complete it rapidly as well and made sure that it was done because I felt relief when I did it. Did you feel
Oh,
some kind of relief or?
absolutely. Yeah, I felt like, okay, I don't have to. I felt like I don't have to spend mental power on like what if, what if, what if, what if. I
Mm,
kind of have an answer for that. Now my mental power is how can I best rehab, and how can I, work and make money, and I don't want to be less of a husband to my wife,
mm,
and I'm sure anyone who has a stroke that has a spouse, he really feels that way, and there's still some things that I just can't help her with, that are so mundane and but just trigger all my neuropathy and just I just can't do it because I'm a grouch when that happens, to
What
say
are
the
some of
least.
those things? What are some of those things? Because I
Well,
relate to that. I relate to being a grouch when I can't do things. And what are some of the things that trigger you?
one of the things that trigger the pain are like folding. So like fine movements. Too much of that will cause me to not sleep at all that next night, toss and turn, get like 2 hours sleep, and be a terrible human being the next day.
Yeah.
But that's really the big one. And carrying anything that weighs, more than a couple pounds. I really we're lucky to have greyhound dogs, yeah, full grown greyhounds. So um, I was really worried after I had my stroke that we'd have to get rid of them because they like to lean on you and they're tall, so they kind of hit you right above the knee sometimes. And I'm like, well, I just need to be like flicked right above the knee when I came home that they fall over. So, but
Okay.
I'm able to really do a lot, and there's been some breakthroughs in some medical technology that I really been a fan of, um, like the extern AFO, which is a new like exoskeleton AFO that goes on the outside of the shoe, and it's really allowed me to just step step everything up. I've only had it for a week, and I tell you, it's changed my life.
Yeah.
So
Maybe when we're done, maybe you can send me the link and I'll include that link to that product in the
that's
show notes. So if anyone who's listening is curious about this particular AFO, where they might be able to find a little bit more information about it.
yeah, actually, yeah, I have a bunch of that. I don't know if you've ever met Marty Jackson.
No.
He apparently is a Australian, like a championship. Trying to look at the championship shot putter in Australia.
Well, here we go.
Uh,
Now the person from Ohio is going to tell an Australian about another Australian. That's classic.
well, I just wanted to prepare that for information on how to get the brace in Australia.
So tell me about Marty. Is Marty a Paralympic athlete
Yeah,
or is he?
yeah, you're probably reading it. Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So he's a
but
world champion shot putter and he uses an AFO and there's an image here of him in the ring or on the field or I'm
yeah,
not sure what it's called with his AFO winding up ready to launch a shot.
yeah, it's pretty cool. And that's the exact one that I have. So
Okay.
it goes on the outside of the shoe. So all you need is your shoe size. And
Okay.
it's
That's
real
really good to
comfortable.
know. I wonder if it's
Yeah,
widely known. Do you think it's widely known that this
not
new version of
really.
an AFO is available?
No, not really.
Okay.
No, sadly, no. It
Um,
should be, and I'm working on that.
was it
But
expensive to get?
it was it was $950, I think.
Okay.
So a little bit of money, but not a lot of bit of money. So not like buying a car.
So you know about Marty. What happened to Marty? Did Marty have a stroke as well?
I have no idea. I just met Marty 3 days ago
Did you
on
meet him
email.
online?
Nah, yeah. I met him on the TurboMed foot drop group, which is TurboMed makes the brace. So it's a Facebook group about people with foot drop.
Wow.
It's really amazing.
You know, Marty probably lives an hour away from me, an hour and a half away
It
from me.
really,
Yeah.
yeah. He said he lives in Ocean Grove,
Oh
Victoria.
man, that's about an hour and a half from me.
I
That's
don't. Yeah,
hilarious.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I've been to New Zealand, but I haven't been to Australia. So
You're missing out.
I'm.
You've got to get here at some point when COVID and all that junk lifts. You've got to get here, man.
Yeah. Oh, I will absolutely.
Now, let me ask you a question about COVID because it's really controversial what's happening at the moment with the vaccines.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I'm not one to tell people what to do, whether they should have a vaccine or not. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer or a vaxxer or any of those kind of things. But you've had a stroke, right? And somebody
Yeah.
says your stroke was caused by a clot and all that kind of stuff. And now they're talking about a vaccine. The AstraZeneca vaccine in Australia has been recommended for people above 50 because for people
Yeah.
below 50, it's causing blood clots. What goes through your mind when you hear that? Because I'll tell you what goes through my mind. I've had a stroke already and I don't want to have another one. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to do anything that's going to put me at risk of potentially having another stroke. So AstraZeneca is off the table for me. There's no chance I'm getting an AstraZeneca vaccine in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. And that's even making me reconsider my desire to get any other vaccine for
Yeah.
COVID. So I'm a little bit concerned and nervous about it. And I'm going to delay getting vaccinated as long as possible because it seems like in the end we're not going to really have a choice if we want to travel or if we want to go to certain places.
Yeah.
We won't be
Yeah.
allowed to go if we don't get proof that we've been vaccinated. How do you feel about this situation that we find ourselves in as a stroke survivor?
I exactly the way you feel. I I've got the Pfizer one. So I got one already. Um,
Okay, tell us about it. Was that
I have
long
I
ago?
have yeah, like a week or two ago.
Okay.
I have faith in the medical community, but not undying faith in the medical community. Um, there's some things that are kind of out of my control,
Hmm.
and if AstraZeneca was the only one to get, I would absolutely not get it.
Mm.
You know, or because they would come in my thought it would be they would come out with rules that say, hey, if you've had a stroke before, obviously you can't get the vaccine.
Mm.
Because obviously we can't put you at risk for a stroke
Mm.
when a stroke could kill you faster than COVID-19 would.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I'm not a medical person either. It's just I'm either here nor there, but I'm not stupid that I don't just go do whatever somebody says to go do.
Yeah. With the vaccine that you did get, did you experience any side effects, any of that stuff that they talk about?
Nothing. Nope.
And is there
My
a second one that you have to get? Do you have to get a top up or something?
apparently in a couple weeks, going on vacation with my wife, so we're just going a couple of states down. Uh, so I need to reschedule the time.
Yeah.
But I'm supposed to get one more, but I'm like, do I have to? It's not like it's been. My only fear is exactly what everybody else's fear is
Mm.
that it's not not been tested enough, thoroughly enough. You
mm,
know,
mm.
what if? You know, and the what if for a stroke survivor is a whole different ballgame for somebody who doesn't have problems.
Yeah, we've already been there. We know what stroke
I
and
mean,
problems are like.
honestly, my brain can only take so much beating. After a while, you know, your brain can only take it so many times until it's done.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I know it's a big conversation, and I don't hear a lot of people having it in the stroke communities that I'm involved in. And um, not that I've instigated that conversation or not, but it seems like people are just laying low and trying not to have those type of
Talk about
conversations.
it.
They seem to
Yeah.
be controversial conversations to have, and I'm not sure why, but I know that I haven't met a lot of stroke survivors that are keen on having a vaccine, and I completely get it. I completely understand. So now, are you easing back into work? Where are you at with all the stuff that was put on hold? Because you're in hospital, 8 weeks in rehab. How long did it take you before you started to get back into, well, let's call it quote unquote, you know, back to normal or normal life or whatever?
And I'm real far away still. I'd say I'm real far away from normal life. Um, Working, you know, I'm still easing back into it. You know, I can't honestly say I'm 100% anything for sure.
Mm,
You know, I give it 100% effort, but my 100% now is like 40 to 50% what it used to be,
mm,
and that's we as stroke survivors, you know, maybe have to like figure out how to live like that for now. Have to be we have to be okay with it. Just okay knowing that tomorrow it's going to be similar to it was yesterday. The one thing I hate is the word the new normal.
mm,
You know, I hear it all the time in the stroke community and all the time outside the stroke community, anyways, now with COVID going on. The new normal. If yesterday was the same as today, then sure, why not? But but my days are never the same. You know, one reason I still go to therapy, or one of the important reasons I still go to therapy, if I get that statistical readout of how I am doing, how my physicality is doing, and what you know, if I feel stronger, that doesn't mean I am stronger.
mm,
Unless I get a readout of how strong my grip is, I don't know how strong it really is
mhm.
or weak. You know,
Yeah.
and, and
Did
that's
you?
just kind of how I approach every day.
I love what you said about the whole my 100% now is about 45%. I mean, that's a beautiful way
Yeah,
to describe what stroke survivors go through. That is exactly it. They're words that I've been lacking for many, many years. My 100% now is 45%. Or I remember people asking me, how am I? And I would say, I'm always 90% or 95% back to normal, I would say. Now, I was nowhere near 95% back to normal. I was nowhere near it, but I didn't have words to describe where I was at. So I like what you said. My new 100% is about 45% of my old 100%. That's pretty clear to people that there's something that we're still trying to gain back, that we're still trying to achieve.
absolutely. You know,
Um,
I uh, I can't run. I can't lift things to carry. I can't you know can't walk up and down the stairs without using the handrails.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I can't do,
Hmm.
and all of those things that I can't do, I used to be able to do at like 100 miles an hour.
Mm,
You know, I and the one thing that obsessed me is that some people talk about being 100% back to normal or 90% back to normal. And I think that they're really giving themselves a shot in the foot when they say that because, excuse me, they're saying, some people are saying that, hey, this is my new 100%. And you just can't think like that, because if you think like that, then you won't get any better,
Yeah, I hear
or
you.
you'll be stuck in the same thing.
I hear what you're saying. So
You
what
know,
you're saying is you got to set your sights higher, and what's what we said
absolutely.
before, and try and get further along than where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been to therapy and they said, "Well, you might not get much more back.
Mm,
And keep coming back, and my levels keep getting better
mm,
and better and better." And then sometime I hit the dreaded plateau, and then when I hit a plateau, it's really frustrating. But I know that I just got to keep working, and if I stop working, I won't get better.
Out of curiosity, did you put a timeline on your recovery? Some stroke survivors do the whole, and I get why they do it, but it kind of frustrates them later when they haven't achieved it. They kind of give themselves, oh, in 6 months, I'll be back on my feet, or in 12 months, I'll be back on this, or in 16 months, I'll be doing this. And what what is interesting to me is that I don't know how they come up with it. Like, I don't know how they come up with this number that they're going
Yeah,
to use to, once they get there, they'll be better. And what seems to keep happening for people like that is that they get to that number, they're not better, and it upsets them more than anything. And then they kind of take a little spiral downwards. And to get them out of that, it's really difficult. When they set these goals that they don't achieve, they get really disappointed. And I don't know how they come up with these figures, but they've got to start somewhere. So I suppose that's how they start. Did you ever do that? Did you ever put timelines on your recovery?
I had I would say I definitely had a theoretical timeline, but you know, I went from not being able to walk and use my hand to go, okay, I got stuff back. You know, if I all of a sudden can move my hand now and have a grip now and walk, then there's progress, and I can't be upset about progress.
Right. So you focus on the small wins and
Yeah,
keep working towards the big wins.
hmm good. You know, I may have drop foot for the rest of my life. You know, sadly, that may be the case. Um, but that's not going to let me be upset about it. You know, doesn't mean I stop trying, because the only thing I'm guaranteed is to have drop foot for the rest of my life if I stop trying.
On Instagram, it's interesting that you just sent that. On Instagram, um, people who are listening can follow me at Recovery After Stroke is my Instagram. Just my last post was, how do you cope with knowing that you are going to have deficits for the rest of your life? That question just went nuts. It went nuts, and people asked so many, responded heaps. I'm curious about that for you. Like, how do you cope knowing that you're going to have deficits the rest of your life?
Well, who's to say I am?
Okay.
That's my answer to that. You know, am I dead yet? You know, I'm not. It's not the end of my life yet. So um, I'll let you know when I get there.
Okay. Good. All right. Hopefully, in about 50 years, we can both
Yeah,
have that conversation.
yeah, on some island in the Caribbean or something.
I'm happy to be there. I'll definitely be there. No problem. Tell me about, did you do any emotional counseling or psychological counseling or anything like that? Did you seek out talking therapies for support?
Yeah, I absolutely did. You know, I find psychology can be helpful. You know, I am bullheaded, so that's just the way I am. You know, I think that has aided me in my recovery,
Hmm.
and also done the exact opposite sometimes. You know, um, I mean, I just hit my head. What is it? Like a week ago, I hit my head harder than I have ever hit my head. And I was laying on the ground going, "You idiot." I said a lot of other words to myself besides that. But but I got overly confident about what I was doing, and I knew I shouldn't have done it right before I did it. I did the, oh, this could end up real bad right before I did it. And all I did was I was breaking a stick, a big stick at my sister's house. I was just breaking this stick. I put it in the A-frame of the tree and I pulled on it and it shot me backwards and I ended up blasting my head on the grass. It was the grass, luckily, but I bounced my head off the grass. And I told my therapist, he's like, man, don't do that anymore.
I've got to agree with you.
I'm
I've
like,
got to agree with your therapist, man. I'll tell you what,
yeah,
though, I've become a little less, I'm not sure what the word is, but maybe I've got less awareness about where my head is in the world. Like something's missing, because I tell you what, I've smashed my head since the stroke and since brain surgery, because I've had surgery, there's a plate on the side
yeah.
of my head. I've smashed my head so many times and it hurts so much more because I associate people touching my head and doing things to my head and impact on my head. I associate as a really bad thing, which it is.
Yeah.
But since the surgery in 2014, like I reckon I do it way more.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just don't seem to pay attention or have enough awareness or vision
Yeah.
of what's above my head. Like it seems like
Mhm.
I'm missing something. I don't know what it is. I haven't been
Yeah.
tested.
Yeah. Well, you might want to get tested for that. That may be like spatial awareness
Mm,
or proximity awareness, like how close my hand is to that kind of stuff.
yeah,
You
that.
know, I think, one technological, uh, interesting thing that has come about is like virtual reality
Mhm,
and kind of training for that vestibular, I don't know the words, like that vestibular training for retraining your brain how to determine how far and how close objects are.
mhm,
I think that's some really, really interesting technology.
mhm.
Uh, excuse me. I'm lucky enough myself to have a quite interesting setup that I put in my basement with a virtual reality system, some workout stuff, and uh, I I I love now riding a stationary bike because that's the number one way I can really get some intense cardio in.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you ever worry about what if another stroke? Is that issue that you have with the blood vessel that has atherosclerosis, is that issue resolved, or what is the approach that the medical team is using to support that not bleeding, not causing another clot?
yeah, it is resolved, and it took me a while to come to terms with their not so good answer on how to resolve the problem.
Hmm.
Basically, is like take an aspirin and take a Lipitor or take a get your LDL down. And I'm like, it already is down. Like, what's the problem? My mindset is always, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Uh, but it took me to a while to accept that those would be good alternatives. And like you were just saying, the psychology aspect. I did see a psychologist for a couple of sessions. I was just really scared about having another stroke, and it really messed my whole day. After I just had a MRA, which is of the arteries,
Yeah.
MRI of the arteries,
Yeah.
and they came back and said, "Hey, it looks good," and I was like, "Oh, here we go again." But we think you have an aneurysm. And I was like, "What? You know, anything else? Any
And
other things you want to tell me?"
was it
Well,
confirmed?
it, huh?
Was it confirmed?
No.
Hmm.
My surgeon looked at it, said, "No, that's not an aneurysm. That's just a weird way to look at the picture or whatever." And so and I was a mess after that. I was like, "Oh, geez, here we go." It literally takes 100% of my effort to just push stuff like that to the side. It's
Mm.
like, I have my life, I have my faith, I have my friends, I have my family. If now is the time, then let it be. I got no power in that. In that way, I don't do drugs. I'm trying. I keep myself fit as best I can. Try to eat healthy.
Yeah.
I try to do what I can do.
Yeah. You keep on top of the things that you can influence and you can help out with and you can do, and the things that you can't. And there's power in giving up on trying to control things that are out of our control. We can't control
Absolutely.
what's going to happen. So there's a real, for me, when I'm able to do that, I get a real, what's the word? I get a real kind of burden eases. The shoulders get lighter. There's less I have to worry about when I don't have to worry about the things that I can't control. It is perhaps I've learned to deal with the fear, and I'm not fearful of dying anymore. And one of the reasons I'm not fearful of dying is because I've put things in place. I've told my children I love them all the time. My wife, my parents, my family, the people that I wronged, I'm trying to make better. I put my will in place so that if I do get hit by a bolt of lightning, then everything that needs to be in place for them, my last wishes are known and it's all sorted. So I've done a lot of things to prepare me for something that I hope doesn't happen for another 50 years. But in the event that it does, of course, that's all been sorted. So they'll be okay. And now I can let go of the fear of that.
Yeah, I think fear can be a very powerful thing. Very, we're being afraid is something to be afraid of. If that makes sense.
Oh man, hang on a sec. Say that again.
Being afraid is something to be afraid of.
That's deep, man. That is real deep.
That came straight from Ohio to Australia. They threw
Oh,
it.
I love it. It's so true, though. I mean, talk about a real meta version of paying attention to being afraid, because we know what being afraid of things does. It puts us in a cycle that's not good, right? So if you're afraid of being afraid, then hopefully you won't get to be afraid, and therefore you won't go into these cycles of stuff that happens that causes problems in your mind, in your body, in your emotions.
In your relationships too.
Yeah. If we can put that aside, then I think the best way to put it aside also is that you have to put things in place and work things out and sort things out and actually tackle the hard stuff like the will, because I know that can be confronting for a lot of people, but it is hard. And if you do that, it lifts some kind of a burden from the shoulders. For me, it was so freeing that I had done that. It just felt great. So that fear has gone, and I like what you're saying. How does your faith help you in your recovery as well? Because it seems to me from what we've said already that you are somebody that has faith in something other than what's going on this planet in your part of the
Yeah,
world.
I'm Catholic, but I truly believe that, and I heard this from my pastor around like a month ago. There is no faith without works. You can't have faith and then not act on your faith.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Rehab. There's no progress without work.
Mm-hmm.
You can't progress without working at it.
Mm-hmm.
Work. You aren't just going to make money. you know, Money doesn't grow on trees. I'm sure you've heard that before.
Yeah. I like what you're saying. And in recovery, what I find is with the people that I'm coaching and supporting on their stroke recovery, the people who are the most active get the most results. And I'm not talking about physical results, or they get results. They just feel better. They feel different. They change. They adjust. They come to terms with things. They find new ways to be themselves. They find new ways to find what they're passionate about. They learn new skills. The more they focus on the solutions to their problems, the more solutions they find. And I find the people that put less effort into their recovery, they get less results. That's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. You know, I think we got to stop telling people that, you know, you can only go so far. You know,
Mm,
don't think that you're going to get much more back.
mm,
For me, it's like a challenge. I go, watch me. But
mm,
for someone else, it's not that much of a challenge. Like,
mm,
oh, okay, you know, and oh, okay to that answer is, you know, terrible, depressing. It's all the bad stuff.
mhm,
And to make your situation worse, that's all you got to say to somebody is, you know, well, you know that after the first couple months, if you don't can't move your leg, you're probably not going to be able to move it. You know, good luck living 30 years without moving your legs. You know,
and they still do that a lot, even in Australia. A lot of stroke survivors say that the doctors still do that. And I have met people who have taken that information from the doctors as gospel, and they've lived by it, and then they've got no results. And thankfully, I've met a lot of people that have said, screw that, I'm not listening to you. I'm not taking what you're saying on um,
the truth.
as the truth. I'm going to do what I can. And most of them get better results than the doctor expected. And that is great. And why doctors do that, I don't know. I don't get it. And if we could get them to stop doing it, would be fantastic. I don't think that we can. They judge everybody based on statistics, and then they apply that statistics to everybody, and that's real harsh, I
I,
think.
you know, for me, I think there's a big avenue. I think that, and this is why I created my website and my business, the Stroke Fit Incorporated. You know, I think that the biggest disconnect is in between when you come home from the hospital and when you're home, and how do you rehab if you can't go to therapy, or even if you do go to therapy, because the therapist gives you stuff to do, but he's not there with you doing it in your house.
Mm,
And everybody's got different tools available or
mm,
different challenges available to do those things.
mm,
It's not cut and dry. It's not like, here, this 80-year-old guy gets the same thing as you get. I'm like,
mm.
why are you giving me the same thing?
Yeah.
If it's hard for me to do, then it's sure as heck hard for that guy to do.
Mm,
You know,
yeah. And
it just, there's so much non-medical speaking, like therapies or like things that you can do. There's so many different things you can do
mm,
out there that are just available that the doctors aren't going to tell you about because they're not FDA certified,
yeah.
or,
Yes.
you know, government certified, or okay by the hospital, the bosses. You
Yeah.
know, everybody's boss in the therapy world. You know,
Yeah. I hear you.
uh,
I hear you. It's a
oh,
very
yeah,
similar. Very similar.
your last. I'm gonna look it up here real quick. The last lady that just talked on your show,
Hmm.
forget her name,
Karen Mormon.
but yeah, Karen, and Karen has Instagram, and I looked at Karen's Instagram, and I saw that she was using a Bosu ball upside down, which is awesome for your hips and everything like that.
Uh huh.
I got a Bosu ball downstairs,
Uh huh.
and I've had it for about 2.5 years. It wasn't pumped up probably for a year and a half, but I can't really use it because my ankle's not really secure. But in this brace that I'm wearing, it is secure.
Hmm.
And so I did exactly what Karen just did. I flipped the ball upside down and did standing squats. But in order to like get myself onto the ball safely
Hmm.
and kind of stand there. I had a pair of TRX bands. I was, suspension trainers, and I was hanging on to the suspension. Need something to hang on while I'm standing there. Go down, do a squat, come up. Go down, do a squat, come up. And then kind of see if I can let go and watch my body work.
So
That
when you're
they never did
describing
that
that
kind of
ball,
stuff.
when you're describing that ball, you're talking about it's a circle,
Yeah,
a
in a flat.
platform on a circle, and
Yeah,
underneath it is a blow
half
up
moon.
half moon ball that's blow
Yeah.
up, and you're supposed to
Correct.
stand on the platform, and then it's supposed to give you it moves as you move, as your weight shifts, and
Yeah,
therefore you're supposed to get a tighter core, and it's supposed to help with your
yeah,
balance. And Karen is on Instagram. Her Instagram handle is at stroke underscore SUR underscore VIVOR.
yeah.
So it's
I got
at
it.
stroke survivor, and I'll put the link on the show notes there, so people can find that. But also, Karen was on episode 139, and we spoke about her stroke journey and the stuff that she was doing that I really loved. She had a
Okay.
couple of really good quotes as well. She spoke about being perfectly imperfect, and she's getting creative as well, just like you're talking about, doing the things that she can within her own home, within her limits, to continue rehabilitation and continue getting better
Yeah.
at home in a way that's really safe and comfortable for her to do.
Yeah, I'm also a big proponent on like doing as many research studies as you can. Because a lot of the universities like Melbourne University and
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland State here, they have a lot of you know federal grant money or whatever it is to do research projects.
Mm-hmm.
They need stroke survivors to do that,
Mm-hmm.
and on my website, for Cleveland area, I have a registry that the Cleveland Clinic actually made up a registry to put everybody down, so that when the college professors or whatnot are ready to do a research study, they have a pool of people that fit certain categories that they already know who to call. They don't have to like seek them out, because the more work they got to do, the more work anybody's got to do, the worse.
Yeah, and it's kind of an opportunity to get some free support, free access to some services
Free
that you
therapy.
would not otherwise get. Yeah, that's
the one I'm doing is like 3 months of free therapy, and I'll take it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, man. That's awesome. I love your out of the box kind of thinking on how to get access to things that some people wouldn't want to get free. Definitely, universities are always looking for people to support them in their programs and in their research and in their in their work. So if it's convenient, it's a no-brainer. It's perfect.
Yeah, and it's usually like a more unconventional therapy or a newer therapy.
Yes.
Because they're not going to just do the same old junk that you've been doing for 50 years.
Yeah, it's cutting edge. It's most recent.
Correct.
As we come to wrap this up, what's on the horizon for you? What are you hoping to achieve over the next few years as your recovery continues?
Get that stroke fit business up and running, and providing people the tools and the help they need to really make themselves better and set them up for progress in their life. For me personally, I still have to run. I'm desperate to be able to run and jog and swim. Can't do any of that because I have too much spasticity going on. Too many limiting factors at the moment that I keep trying to power through. And I've been seeing amazing progress, but it's just I'm almost there. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. And and being almost there kind of motivates me also in another way. And meeting people like you, learning about podcasts like this, and
Yeah.
um,
The great things to aim for. I very, very early on in the podcast, I interviewed a stroke survivor, somebody who'd had a stroke when they were a child, probably 8 years old, and in her early 40s, she has foot drop and she uses an AFO. And in
yeah,
her early 40s, she decided that she was going to hire a trainer to get back to running, to be able to run again.
uh,
So a long, long time had passed and she hadn't been able to fulfill that goal. So she decided that she was going to do it. And she was on episode 28, Donna Campese. And on episode 28, she talks about how to get back to running after stroke. And she talks about how she was challenged to run a marathon, not just a few kilometers that she was initially wanting to do. So at the beginning, she thought, I'm going to go and learn how to do 4 or 5 kilometers. And her trainer said to her, no, we need to run a marathon. So she went quickly from being somebody who was just trying to get back into running to becoming somebody who was going to run a marathon. And she ran a marathon, I think back in 2012 or 13 or something like that. And it's a really inspiring story because it's what she did. She got back to running after the stroke, but it took her quite a long time. And she fell and she struggled and she had injuries and she suffered pain and all these things, but they slowly but surely they overcame all these little obstacles and all these hurdles and all these problems, and she ended up running a full marathon, man. It was slow, but she did it.
yeah. My goal wise is, but by the time I'm 40, I want to do an Ironman, or the half Ironman, so the 70-30. There's no way I can do the whole thing, but
Good on you, man.
my cousin is a Ironman, so and he's my age too. So,
Yeah. Well done on that, man. I hope you do get there. I couldn't think of anything worse, not before the stroke, not after the stroke. There's no chance I'll be doing anything that takes 40 kilometers. And there's no chance I'll be doing anything that is a full marathon, a full Ironman. No chance in the world. I don't enjoy challenging myself like that. I never have, and I'm inspired by all the stroke survivors who have done those types of things after stroke. Absolutely. You guys are amazing. And I take my hat off. I'm never ever going to do it.
well, I'll get a hat made for you, and at the end of the line, and
man,
maybe I'll come do it in Australia.
You come do it in Australia, man. I will be cheering for you at the finish line. There's no problem whatsoever. I look forward to it. I want to thank you for reaching out. I really appreciate it when people contact me and say, can I be on the podcast? I love meeting new people. I love sharing stroke stories. And I just like your approach, man. I think your approach is one that people need to hear about. And I like that you've also made it a little bit about other people. It's not just about you. This recovery that you're on is trying to somehow incorporate other people and support them. And a lot of stroke survivors do that. And I don't understand why. I did the same thing. I don't understand why, but that's what we need, isn't it? We need to support each other because nobody else gets us. No one really understands what we're going through.
Correct. That's absolutely correct.
Neale, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Bill. It was really a pleasure.
Discover how to heal your brain after stroke. Go to recoveryafterstroke.com. Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gassiamis. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.